JAC, our electronic prescribing and medicines administration system, is changing. After our forthcoming upgrade, it will be web-based, allowing you to more easily access it from your trust device. JAC has taken on board feedback from end users like yourselves and have gone back to basics. No more confusing program names and Americanisms. It's now clear what you need to click. So to find an inpatient, click Inpatient Finder. You can find our patient as before. And you'll see as we log in that this patient has allergies, and it popped up with a red box. So what it's doing is it's drawing your attention to the important information that you need to know about your patient. Okay, so to prescribe, we're going to go to Add Drug, start typing in the first few letters. And you'll see this search function slightly different. Before, we used to have the priority medication listed, and then you had to click search all to find the other things, which got confusing for people. Now everything is listed, but the priority drugs are at the very top, so to try and aid with your decision making. It also tells you the formulary status, so again, helps you to identify the things that you should be prioritising in terms of prescribing and possibly avoiding if it's non-formulary. One piece of feedback was around protocols and how some people accidentally prescribed a protocol when they didn't mean to because everything was mixed up within the old search function. So now if you want a protocol, you search for it separately. So I'm going to click protocol. And there you go. There's my paracetamol oral or IV. And then I've also got paracetamol caplets or suspension. So once you've selected what you want to prescribe, you'll see that there's more of a linear flow to prescribing now. The system does a check. It checks for any drug notes that may be there. It will check the formulary status. It will check for any conflicts such as an interaction. And if the system picked up anything, it would take you to these sections to help you to resolve this. However, for this particular patient and this particular medicine, I've got no queries from the system, so it's taking me straight to the order entry. At the moment, I've got regular order selected. I could change that to a PRN or stat if I wanted to. And it's quite easy to then change the dose. You can change the milligram dose, or you can change the number of dose units. Frequency as before, but you'll see that the administration times are quite prominently displayed now, quite near to the frequency box, to make it clearer to prescribers that if they've selected a 4 times a day frequency, those are the times it will be due to be administered. Another handy feature is the calendar function. So when you're deciding your start and your stop date, it's much clearer now what day of the week and what date you need to select. So we've got that functionality as well. Assuming that you're happy with what you've prescribed, you go to next, and it will take you to the confirmation page. This is because a lot of prescribers fed back that there were occasions where they were not entirely clear what they had just prescribed and whether it was what they had intended. So this is acting as a summary of what you've prescribed. So you can see there's me, this is the time, this is the medication I've prescribed, the dose, the frequency. So I'm happy with that. Over here, this looks very much like a drug chart. So you've got the days of the month along here, highlighted for today's dates. You'll see there's a line across the 8 o'clock dose, and that's because of course it's 9:28. That dose cannot be administered. So the very first dose that will be administered is the 1 p.m. dose. So it's nice and clear, and assuming I'm happy, I confirm. I'm going to add one more medication on and go back to drug. We go to ibuprofen 400 milligram tablets. Now with this one, you'll see with that linear flow, there is a drug conflict. Apparently this patient has an allergy to ibuprofen causing an intolerance. If I choose to continue, which I can do, I need to acknowledge that on the system. So I click next. It then takes me to the order entry. Now at the moment the default is regular, but I don't want that. I would like a stat dose. So I'm going to click stat and 400 milligrams for now. Press next. And this is just confirming that that's what I wanted to prescribe, which I do. Press confirm. And again, you'll see it's much clearer just much more clearly displayed, so it looks like a drug chart. You've got this black line running down the chart here, that's showing you where we are, so this is the time now. Green for today's date. You'll see with paracetamol, because it's a regular prescription, there are doses due going forward, but with the ibuprofen, as it's a stat dose, there's only the one dose, then there's a line through, and that dose has an exclamation mark in it because it hasn't yet been administered. I'm just going to show you now what it will look like from the nurse's point of view. So when they log onto the system, they would usually go into administration round. They select the ward, and then all of the patients on their ward will be listed below. And this patient in particular has a dose that's due, so it's drawing my attention to that fact. So I can click on that patient. And one piece of feedback from nursing staff was that they wanted an overview of all the medication that's currently prescribed for that patient, even if it wasn't due now, so that they could consider the patient in context. So that's what this screen is showing. Even though the paracetamol won't be due until 1 o'clock, it's still letting me know that that patient has got it prescribed. And from the nursing point of view, it looks like a drug chart now as well. When you go to administer the medication, it's telling me this is what I'm going to be administering. And if I press chart dose, it's just capturing the time and the date now and what I've administered. Of course, if I didn't administer it, then I can select a reason for not administering as before. I'm going to click chart dose. There you go. So I've administered that medicine now. And then going back to the original screen for the prescribers, it's quite easy to switch between them now. You don't have to go and search for a different program. So this ibuprofen has been administered for this patient, and you can see the difference now, this grayed out, it's staying on the inpatient chart, and that's because of feedback from you guys to say that actually we want the stat dose to be visible even after it's been administered. So the way the system handles this, it stays on the chart until midnight and then it moves into discontinued tab. So when you're prescribing, it's still good practice to always refer to the discontinued tab first, just to make sure you're not prescribing something that the patient has had been administered and subsequently discontinued. But it's just a bit clearer about what's going on with the stat doses. They will stay on the chart until midnight. So there you go, that's just an overview of prescribing, a little bit about administration. Some of the other benefits of JAC with our upgrade: more than one person can access the chart at the same time. And that was again feedback from end users saying it was so annoying when pharmacy were in the chart and it locked it out, or whoever. So more than one person can access the chart, and then when the second person logs in, there's a little pop-up that tells you somebody else is in the chart. It's just to warn you. VTE, not a huge amount of change for VTE, but it will, the biggest benefit is that it will allow the nurses to continue to administer medication that's prescribed even if a VTE assessment isn't done, which will allow the prescriber to do the assessment at an appropriate time when they're reviewing the patient with the patient's notes. The upgrade will also allow a launch from Symphony, which is the program that they use in the emergency department. That's dependent on Symphony being upgraded, but the functionality will be there, which means that ED staff will be able to launch JAC through Symphony, which is great news. And for everybody in the organisation, big piece of feedback is that it's very annoying having paper charts as well as JAC. So we will be moving our IV infusions over to JAC and warfarin as well. So we're minimising the number of paper charts in addition to JAC. So in terms of what next then, there is some e-learning coming that will be available very shortly. Otherwise, you could try to book some one-to-one training. We might be able to help with that as well. Any questions that you have at all about the system, please do contact the Pharmacy Systems Help Desk. We'll be able to go through anything. If you would like to have a little demo about how it would work in your area, then again, please do get in touch. We'll be very interested to hear. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.